Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is Smart Investing with Alton Brooks on Monday, April the 26th. Thank you for joining us today. Today it's all about stocks. So we're going to get started right now. Let's go. Hi, this is Alton Brooks for the Smart Investing Show. Tonight it's all about the stock market. We're going to break down some opportunities and how to spot them. So where do we start? The market's been on a roll. It's been a year since we've had COVID, and somehow this freight train called the stock market will just not slow down. You'd think by now it would have taken a breather, but it's still chugging away, defying all metrics, defying all odds of those saying that it should basically go down. I'm one of those who have that thought that it is well due for a correction. And if it doesn't happen soon, it does mean that that correction may be pretty severe. So we have to just keep our fingers crossed and hope that somehow the market finds a way to do what it's supposed to do naturally versus being helped. Now, one of the reasons that this is happening, of course, is because their governments are, using the controls that they have to help keep the markets going. And I'm going to have a few slides for you tonight to help you through some of the things I'm going to talk about so that we can have a better understanding and give you some thoughts and some ideas on how you can spot opportunities. So let's put this first slide. So talking about the markets, it's pretty much been quite resilient to the point where companies are just making money hands over fist. This particular week, we're going to have at least 40% of the companies reporting their earnings. Every 3 months, every quarter, as a public company, you have to report what is happening to your stock, to your business, to your profits, to your losses. This week, we have upcoming reports from Tesla, who's probably just released theirs after hours, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, some of the big names that are reporting this week. And based on how they do, that may determine the nature of the market going forward. If they don't do very well, then that will more than likely take the stocks into that pullback. But my guess is that they will continue to do well, especially some of these stocks that are called FANG stocks, which stands for Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google. They have their own little sub-index, and that's been doing rather well over the last year. So currently, for those that have reported, about 80% of them have received better profits than their estimates had listed. So they're topping their estimates by about 80% of those who report, by an average of about 24%. So stocks are doing well, at least those that are on the stock market. The ones that are private entities and maybe small businesses, for instance, they haven't done that well because they have paid the price of the ones in COVID who've had to close, shutter because they're non-essential and otherwise. So they've paid the price. But the ones who have been larger organizations, such as the Walmarts and the Costcos and McDonald's and Googles, Amazons, they have done extremely well and continue to do so because of the fact that it's advantageous to them being very large organizations in this type of pandemic. We'll go to the next slide. So just to give you an idea of a couple of new words that you may or may not have heard about. First one is blockchain. You're hearing that a lot these days. It's basically the technology of recording information that makes it impossible to change or hack into a chain of command. So blockchain has been developing for quite a while. One of the biggest ones that you may know about right now under blockchain would be Bitcoin, which falls under a cryptocurrency. These are digital currencies, and they're using blockchain technology to keep it going, and that technology is supposed to make anything that happens on this chain of command legitimate, unhackable. But as we've seen in the news and otherwise, a lot of this is not that regulated. So many times, some of these smaller entities in this cryptocurrency space, you end up going out of business, or they just disappear overnight. And your money disappears with it, which is kept in what's called wallets. But it's suggested and advisable that you use more well-known places to store your money and buy these cryptocurrencies. So just be very careful. They're extremely high risk. Of course, there's high risk, high reward, but at the same time, do you really want to gamble with your money? Just straight gambling, which is what a lot of these are. So you have to be very careful and understand that you're playing with fire, for lack of a better word. Earlier last week or the week before, we had a new stock market symbol come out, coin for Coinbase. It now is running cryptocurrency stock on the stock market. You can look at that. It's been selling off since it came out. For those who like to buy new issues, IPOs, they might have gotten into that. But personally, I like to wait at least 3 to 6 months before looking at new issues. But there are new cryptocurrencies coming on the market as far as stocks go, and that's adding to the legitimacy of it. You might have also heard of this new term called NFT. That stands for a non-fungible token. Now that may sound like something that may go between your toes, but no, that's not what that is. What that is it's a new format of digitizing pretty much everything that you own and using the same blockchain technology to make sure that there's authentically only one of it that is in circulation digitally. So you may take a photo, you may have a video, you may have an audio. For instance, the gentleman who owns Twitter, his very first tweet, they captured it in this form of NFT, made it just one copy that's legitimate of it, and he was able to sell that tweet on the market. So NFTs are items that's going to be resellable. It's not physical. You're just going to own it digitally, and you'll be able to trade it. You may have the first trading card for LeBron James or Wayne Gretzky. You might have it in a safe somewhere. But now you can legitimately put a digitized version of that called an NFT, and you can actually sell that as the original owner of it, but you'll sell it digitally, and the other person will own it digitally and be able to trade it and buy and sell it as well. Now that's a little different from the Bitcoins, the crypto type currencies. Those are physical in a sense of it's actually replacing a physical item. So for instance, with Bitcoin, you'd replace that with cash, for instance, if you were to trade that back and forth. Or just cash itself is considered a fungible item, which is just something that is physical. But the non-fungible is something that is digital. It's not something you can touch and feel. So it's just going to be in a way that you can only use it digitally. All right, so we'll go to our next slide. So these are just some new lingos that you may see coming out, so just be aware of them. Playboy actually has been one of the first to take off on the NFTs, and they are doing a lot of work there. If you look at their stock price, it has really gone up because of that. So let's talk about opportunities that come about. I have this ability to look at an object and not necessarily see the object itself, but see other things right through the object. It takes a bit of training. So I've put up this photo here. This is the ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal. It was stuck for probably a week or 2 weeks. Put a whole lot of people on hold, a whole lot of products on hold. But when you look at this particular ship, what do you see? Are you seeing just a physical item, which is the ship, and everything around it? Or are you seeing anything else? Let's go to the next slide. Keep that in mind. So the Suez Canal blockade. Let's talk about it. Through this Suez Canal that flows through and is controlled under Egyptian waters, but it's been open for international trade for pretty much just about everybody. It carries 12% of the world's trade on a daily basis. 1 million barrels of oil flow through here on a daily basis. 10% of our natural gas throughout the world flows through this area. To use an alternative route than the Suez Canal would add 50% more kilometers in sea travel just to get it to a European destination or a North American destination. Are your light bulbs going off yet? Are we on the same page? Are you seeing that this is opportunity? So we looked at that ship that was stranded. Did you see a stranded ship? Or did you see the fact that this ship that had 20,000 containers on it and could not move and was carrying months and months of supplies for many countries? If you're a manufacturer, if you're someone who wants these products, you've seen the risk of just depending on one very large vessel. It runs aground. What are you going to do? You need oil for the people. You need gas. You need all these supplies. So what should be going off is maybe there's a need for more ships. And especially with the economy coming back around, the vaccines are being placed left, right, and center. Folks are looking to order more, get more supplies, get more equipment. People are looking to spend more money, especially with the money given from throughout the world and the governments that's handing it out to keep the economies going. That means there's more demand. And when there's more demand, it means more ships are required, especially if there's a risk of them getting stuck for months and months and months. Then you have to start looking what other ships or shipping companies can take advantage of this type of scenario. So I've included a couple on our next slide. The first one here is Jenko Shipping. Now, I'm not sure if you can see the slide very well, but I can describe for you. This event took place around March the 6th or March the 20th. Actually, I believe it was March the 21st. And it was stuck for probably about 8 to 9 days. So if you were to look at Jenko, a few days prior to that, it was just going along, not making too much money, around the $25 range. And as you can see, as soon as this ship got stuck, it started moving up. Because people in the know realized that, hey, if that ship is stuck, more ships are needed. This shipping company is going to get more business. So all of a sudden, where you see that blue line and the stock is intersecting with that, it is starting to gain a little momentum. And the longer it takes to free the ship is the more people are saying they're going to get new orders. And sure enough, after a little while, they got an order to put a big ship into production to carry goods. That order is what is propelling them now to have gone up about 30% since that episode took place. So again, when you see opportunities, you have to see behind it. Don't see a ship that's stuck. See opportunities for more ships to be needed and who will supply them. So this is how the professionals think. And That's why you have to be able to see what you don't see. Let's go to the one other slide. This one is for a company called Navios Maritime. And again, it's very simple, very similar to the other one that we looked at. They were just moseying along, pretty much close to their moving averages prior to that incident. And then slowly but surely, as the weeks go by, you can see the stock price starting to move higher. And in fact, they will continue to move higher because of this fact that nobody wants to wait an extra month or 2 or 3 for their goods. So business people are making sure that they put more freighters into the waters to mitigate that situation. This is one example. And again, part of doing this show is to try to show you different ways to think, different ways to look at things. If you look at an egg, it's not really just an egg. It's always something else. So we're going to go to the next slide to talk about another opportunity. Oh my goodness, lumber. Wow, this is one of those hot topics. Do not touch lumber right now. The lumber prices have doubled since last year. If you're buying a 2x4 stud at Lowe's or wherever you might go to shop, if it cost you $4 last year, it is now costing you $8 for that 2x4. If it was $30, it's now $60. If it was $50, it's now $100. So you might be saying, oh my God, this thing is getting so expensive. But guess what? Demand is driving it. Many people are not moving right now, but they are fixing up their home. They are having many home improvements. Upgrades are hot. They're all doing their bathrooms, their kitchens, their basements. Hopefully fixing it up for renting it out or to selling it. But because of COVID, there has been a low number of homes for sale, and that has dwindled supply. Demand is still pretty high though, so when supply drops and demand is high, it means you got to go up, up, up. And now there are multiple bidders on your one house that you thought nobody would want to buy. But that also means if you want to do an upgrade, it's going to cost you that much more. In fact, the estimate is that due to the high prices of lumber, it's going to cost anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 more just to build a new home. So if you are looking at a new home right now, you may want to sign quicker than later with your builder, as they have also started adjusting their prices to take into account this very high lumber price that's happening right now. Same thing for selling your house. You will get more for it after you do your upgrades. Costs are going up. You will be charged more by the trade people, but because of the lack of supply, the seller is in the driver's seat. But what does this mean? Does it mean that you're now paying higher prices? Does it mean that the world is falling, you didn't get a raise, and therefore you don't have the money to pay for it? Is it a bad thing? Is it terrible? $30,000 more? What if I don't qualify for that? What if I can't get a house now? Those things are all valid. But I smell something else. What I smell is opportunity. And if you're not buying or selling a house, it really doesn't affect you. But if you want to profit off of it, of the opportunity, then you need to start looking beyond just high lumber prices. And ask yourself, well, if demand is high and lumber prices are doubling since last year, maybe I should look at some of the companies that actually supply lumber or supply items that they benefit when the price of lumber increases. This will allow you to take part in some of that lumber price increase. Again, this is just something that's fairly straightforward and easy to think about. Don't look at the bad thing that's happening, which is the higher price, but look at how can I profit from that. It's kind of like when The oil prices were going through the roof years ago. Everybody was saying the price is so high, the price is so high. I wasn't really looking at the high price. What I was looking at was buying Petro-Canada stock, or buying the stock of Sunoco, or Enbridge, or anyone that had to do with making this oil, because they're the ones profiting from the higher prices. So never look at just what's happening. Look at what's happening behind it so you can profit. Banks, they charge a ton for fees. If you just have one account, you're parting with $20 a month. Nothing you can really do about it, so why get mad about it? Just buy that bank stock and it'll help you pay for it. When they pay you back the dividends for owning the stock, that'll easily pay for any bank charges that they're charging you. So that's how you look at it. Don't complain about the charges. It's helping you make a dividend. Just buy their stock. So let's look at two stocks that benefited from lumber. RFP, that must be the first one. Let's look at RFP. Next slide. All right. So we can see, probably about a month and a half ago, nothing was really happening with lumber. But the spring market came. And with spring comes everybody looking to fix up their deck, fix up their basement, do upgrades. And as well, what's helpful too on the Canadian and US side is that on the US side, they're spending trillions, giving that to their residents. And in Canada, they're giving us billions in order to continue to shop and buy things. And people are taking that governmental money and plowing it back into their homes. There is a new budget that's come out for Canada, and part of that does allow for credits and some funds for upgrading to newer technology within your home. So many people plan to take advantage of that, whether it's LED or otherwise. So what that's created now is a very healthy market for lumber. Resolute Forest Products, they trade on both the TSX, and the US New York Stock Exchange. Their stock has benefited quite well from this new scenario. In fact, they're almost up about 50% in the last 6 weeks. And it looks like they've got lots of potential to go higher. So if you are looking at a play to take advantage of the increasing lumber pricing, you may want to take a look at Resolute Forest Products. Let's look at the next one, Western Forest Products. Again, this is a similar story. The price of lumber has just continually, gradually increased, and now it's gone kind of hyperbaric. This particular stock benefits from higher lumber prices. So if you bought this stock at $1 or $1.20, $1.50 just 2 or 3 months ago, you're now laughing because it's at almost $2.50. So you've done really well. And again, just like the other stock, it is poised to go higher. So if you do a buy and hold scenario on these forestry stocks, it should pay off handsomely for you over the next little while. But keep an eye on it. Never get too happy. You know, if you get a decent profit, don't be afraid to take your profit, not get too greedy. But these two stocks are in an uptrend, and they are currently two that you should look at. We're going to continue looking at some more opportunities in just a few moments, and we'll be right back.
Hi. Show 360 Wellness right here on the GBKM network. Join us Tuesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, a senior, a student, a working professional, or an entrepreneur, join us for information, tips, and strategies that will keep you well and get you well. Join us live at www.gbkm.tv or download our app, GBKM, on iOS or Android. 360 Wellness. Eat well, live well. Hi, it's Andrea Barrett, and I'm the host of a brand new show, 360 Wellness, right here on the GBKM.
And welcome back to the Smart Investing Show. Tonight I'm taking a little time as I've re-invited the wolf to join us, aka your host. The Smart Investing Show with Alton Brooks. Every Monday night from 9 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. we talk business and or stocks. And every so often I'll have my alter ego, the wolf, come in to help break down the stock market for you. I try to go a little bit slow so that you can definitely keep up. I know that some are more experienced than others, but for those that are not experienced, I try to take a little time just to break down what we're talking about. So tonight, we're looking at opportunities, and we're talking about the stock market and how to spot them. And many times, you can spot these just from regular, everyday scenarios. We've talked about a couple of instances so far where the blockage of the Suez Canal by that huge container, yes, it was difficult for a few weeks and it caused a lot of pain, but there's also opportunity in there for other shipping companies to sign more business, and they have taken advantage of that. And that's where you would have made money on that. Currently, lumber is going gangbusters. If you're doing a deck, it's going to cost you twice as much as last year, unfortunately. But there's also opportunity. There are people who make the lumber. Buy their stock. They're getting much more money for it now than before. Anyone who can take advantage of higher pricing on lumber when selling to their clients are the ones to purchase. And I showed you two of them earlier that have done that, and their share prices have increased accordingly. So again, just looking at general, regular scenarios that's happening in the marketplace and doing a little research can do that for you. We'll go to the next slide, my friend, which takes us to a very unique area. It's an area that's not talked about a lot, and that's smoking. Most of what's gotten through the airwaves is, the legalization of marijuana. Not federally in the U.S. yet, but across Canada, it is a legal entity for all. And most of the stories that have been discussed have talked about marijuana. But what a lot of people have forgotten, and that has flown under the radar, is that there are tons of cigarette smokers out there. And that's legal everywhere. You can, as long as you're 21, I guess, in most countries, you can legally smoke. But one thing that's been happening over the last little while is that smokers have started suing a lot of the manufacturers. I mean, granted, no one forces you to put a cigarette in your mouth. The package does say, this item will kill you, and this will give you cancer. But folks, I guess because of their addiction to nicotine, which is one of the main ingredients in cigarettes, are pretty much forced to smoke because they can't stop. So they've started, suing a lot of the manufacturers. And the U.S. government, for the most part, is also going after these manufacturers quite heavily. The manufacturers say, though, that, look, in order to make cigarettes, whatever we use is filled with nicotine, and it's very hard to take nicotine out of it. What do you want us to do? Well, what do you see here with that scenario? Do you see big tobacco just going out of business because the government's going to put them out of business? Probably not, because people find a way to smoke. They'll find a way to get a pack. They'll find a way to find it somewhere. But if you're smoking what I'm smoking right now, then you will know that what I'm looking at is an opportunity. Because if there's an issue with nicotine, and nicotine is the most addictive item in a cigarette, if there's a company out there that can reduce the nicotine that's in cigarettes and sell that technology to all the manufacturers of cigarettes to lower their possibilities of being sued and to create other products around that does not make it as addictive, does that not sound like a scenario that can make some money? Perhaps some royalties. And in fact, there is one such company, a company called 22nd Century. I guess they've already left the 21st century. 21st Century, under the symbol XXII, they have a technology that can greatly reduce the nicotine in cigarettes. They own a ton of patents on this. And eventually, the manufacturers of this product are going to have to play ball with them, and they're going to make a lot of money from either royalties and they're just general partnerships. So let's take a look at the chart of this particular stock, 22nd Century. As you can see, it was pretty much on a straight line for a while, nothing much happening. But now that the U.S. has started hearings with a lot of these tobacco manufacturers, it started to get some attention. Because folks are now realizing that, especially the manufacturers of cigarettes, if they want to improve their product to the point where the U.S. government will work with them and reduce some of these lawsuits that they're facing, they're going to have to start getting into bed with this company. And as you can see, over the last week, the stock has really started to take off. Personally, I think it's got a lot of room to go. It was just under $4 a week ago. Now it's well over $5. And it's still in a very good uptrend. A lot of the technicals are pointing to still a bullish type of scenario. So if you're a long-term investor or just someone who's looking to take a position in something of this nature, this may not be a bad alternative for you. Over time, it should do well. So again, this is just another opportunity where you just have to look at things a little differently. Big tobacco is not in trouble, but what is the solution that can help them? Well, this particular company can help them do that. And if they have to put their technology into every single cigarette manufacturer, can you imagine how much revenue that can produce? All right, let's go to the next slide. You know, over the last long while, I'd probably say from the 60s, we've had a problem of equality. And we know that equality comes in many forms. But in business, it's economic inequality. There are opportunities given to many and opportunities not given to most. So over the last year, since the tragic deaths of many individuals by the hands of the police and from anti-black racism within schools and from just lack of opportunities in general, there's now a big spotlight on equality and inclusion and fighting back against this anti-black racism. What that means is that more opportunities are coming to businesses of color. So what does that mean? Does that mean that, well, you know, just, oh, I'm okay, it's just something else that happens? Or are you seeing things differently and the light bulbs are now going on, saying, if more opportunities are being presented to specifically, say, black businesses, why would you not now be looking at some of those black businesses that are on the stock market? Because if it's inclusion, if it's diversity, if it's equality, and there is a strength in pushing forward more of this equitableness, that means you're going to get more business. It means more advertisers if they're in the media. It means more orders if they're in other businesses. So what I think about when I think about this type of scenario is, who are the large players that owns black businesses, and how can you profit from that? Well, one of the largest businesses out there that is black owned is a company called Urban One. They control a lot of radio stations and media. They have a long reach when it comes to a lot of different entertainment and otherwise. So they will benefit from this push of inclusion to give businesses more opportunities. So what I did was look at them and say, hey, if you're on the stock market and you're going to increase your revenues due to this push, it means you're going to make more money. And of course, if you're helping a minority-owned business, that's even better. So let's look at the stock symbol, Urban One. And we can see that, again, over the last little while, it was meandering along. And, like with the George Floyd verdict last week, that has again put the spotlight on things that involve minorities, including business. So with the spotlight back on, everyone is now looking at how can I invest and support black business? Well, there's Urban One Radio, Urban One Media. And now people are putting resources, a spotlight on that, which means it's going to do well over the next little while because of that. And with that being the case, you want to be one of those that own the stock. So you can also take part in it having bigger visibility, more revenues, and more profits. So again, this is just surveying the land, seeing what is happening in the world, and just looking beyond just what we see to see what opportunities are out there. Within your local area, you may have other companies that can benefit from this type of scenario. Look into them. What special scenarios happening in your city? What companies forming that could possibly benefit from changes that are going on? Look beyond the lens, look beyond what you physically see to see what the opportunity is. Let's go to our next slide. All right. So we've talked about a few different scenarios tonight, different opportunities, a different way of seeing things. Sometimes you got to see what you don't see. And it's a skill that takes a while to develop, but once you can do that, you can look at a ship and not see a ship. You can look at the price of lumber doubling and not seeing that price doubling. You can look at banks charging you a ton of money for keeping your money in there and not let that bother you. Because guess what? You're going to go buy the bank stock. Currently, there are 3 banks that are showing very good entry points. Bank of Montreal, National Bank, and CIBC, to name 3 of them, are providing some good entry points right now, in my view. And if you take these over a long term, you will definitely do well. Banks are quite healthy. They manage your financial system. They pay great dividends. And as they make more money, they put it back in your pocket. So again, it's a trade-off. The $20 a month you pay for having your bank account, you may be able to get that back with a $20 per month dividend from that same bank. So it's actually not costing you anything. Just how you look at it. Another area that's bound to do well with this continued outbreak of the economy into higher stratospheres is precious metals. Steel, copper, aluminum. And a couple of names you can look at there is CMMC, which is Copper Mountain, and Capstone Mining is another one. So these are some opportunities that are there as we go into renewable energy, as we go into alternative type scenarios. Precious metals are going to be in play as more cars are made with electricity and made with lots of other renewable parts. Opportunities will arrive there as well. So just keep your eyes open, keep your eye on the prize. So for this evening, I want to thank you for joining me, and thank you for taking the time for me to go through some of these scenarios with you that you may or may not have thought about before. The market continues to defy gravity and to go forward. While it's doing that, take advantage of some opportunities, but maybe not put all your eggs in the basket right now. If it does sell off, you may want to take advantage of that when that happens. But until then, just look around, see where you can find opportunities to make some money. Professionals can do it quite easily, like myself, but as for yourself, maybe you just need to do a little bit more digging, a little bit more reading, and you can see some of these opportunities as well. So again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Monday night.
Network. Join us Tuesday, April 27th at 7 p.m. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, a senior, a student, a working professional, or an entrepreneur, join us for information, tips, and strategies that will keep you well and get you well. Join us live at www.gbkm.tv or download our app, GBKM, on iOS or Android. 360 Wellness. Eat well, live well. Hi, it's Andrea Barrett, and I'm the host of a brand new show, 360 Wellness, right here on the GBKM Network. Join us Tuesday, April 27th at 7 p.m.